The calendar on my phone glowed with tomorrow's date, circled in red. Divorce hearing, 9 a.m. It had been sitting there for weeks, but tonight it felt heavier than ever. I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at the pile of neatly folded clothes in my suitcase. Everything about my life felt packed up, my things, my heart, my future. I told myself this was what I wanted. Freedom. Peace. A fresh start away from David. Still, I couldn't stop replaying the way things used to be. The way he'd pull me close in the mornings, half asleep, muttering something about never letting me go. Now, he barely looked me in the eye. I was just reaching to turn off the bedside lamp when I heard the faint creak of our bedroom door. At first, I thought it was the wind, until I saw him standing there. David. He didn't look angry. He didn't look smug. He looked tired. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair a mess, like he hadn't slept in days. He stepped inside without asking. His eyes met mine, and his voice came out in a low, almost trembling whisper. One last time. I froze. His words hung in the air like a thread I didn't dare touch. One last time. My first instinct was anger. Was this some kind of joke? After months of lawyers, arguments, and cold silences, he thought he could just slip into my bed the night before our divorce like nothing had happened? David, you should go, I said, my voice firmer than I felt. He didn't move. Instead, he sat down on the edge of the bed, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him. His hand hovered near mine, like he was testing the air between us. I'm not asking for forever, he murmured, eyes locked on mine. Just tonight. I don't want to end us on the way we've been. I wanted to scream that it was too late. That we'd crossed this bridge and burned it to ash. But there was something in his face, a rawness I hadn't seen in years. Against my better judgment, I didn't push him away immediately. Instead, I asked, why now? Why tonight? His jaw tensed, and he swallowed hard. Because tomorrow, we stop being us. And there's something you need to know before that happens. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't teasing. Whatever he had to say, it wasn't something light. David, what is it? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked down at his hands, fingers curling like he was holding on to something invisible. I didn't fight for us, he said finally. Not because I stopped caring, but because I thought I didn't deserve you. I stared at him, confused and a little irritated. You cheated, David. You lied. That's not about what you deserve, that's about choices you made. His head snapped up, guilt flashing across his face. I know. And I regret every damn second of it. But there's more. Something I've never told you, about why I pulled away. I felt my throat tighten. I didn't want to care. I didn't want to feel anything for him anymore. But the way he said it made my stomach knot. What are you talking about? He hesitated for a long moment, then finally whispered. They told me I might not have much time left. The words hit me so hard I almost forgot to breathe. My mind scrambled to process what I'd just heard. Not much time left? I repeated, almost laughing from disbelief. David, what are you talking about? Is this another excuse? His eyes didn't waver. I wish it was. He took a deep breath. A few months ago, I was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy. It's serious. My heart's failing, and the doctors say I'll need a transplant. Without it, he stopped, his voice breaking. I felt the air thicken between us. All the anger I'd been holding on to suddenly tangled with something else, confusion, fear, and a reluctant ache. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice shaking. Because I didn't want you to stay out of pity, he said quickly. And because I wasn't sure I deserved your kindness after everything I had done. For the first time in months, I saw him not as the man who betrayed me, but as the man I once promised to love in sickness and in health. And it terrified me. David, I started, but my throat tightened around his name. He reached for my hand, his touch hesitant, almost afraid. Please. Just tonight. Let me remember what it felt like to be yours. I should have told him no. Every rational part of me screamed to keep the walls up, to protect the fragile peace I'd built for myself since the day I packed my bags. But something in his eyes, that mix of fear and longing, chipped away at my resolve. Without saying a word, I moved over, making space beside me. He slipped under the blanket like it was the most natural thing in the world, though I felt his hands tremble as they brushed against mine. For a while, we just lay there in silence. His breathing was uneven, but warm, and I found myself matching his rhythm without meaning to. I remembered the early days, Sunday mornings tangled in each other, laughing over burnt pancakes, whispering about the future like it was endless. It felt almost dangerous, how easily those memories crept back. I miss this, he murmured into the quiet. Not just this. You. The way you made me feel like I was worth something. I wanted to tell him it was too late for nostalgia, that no amount of regret could erase the betrayal. But instead, my hand found his, and I let him hold it. When sleep finally came, it wasn't the restless, guarded sleep I'd known lately. It was heavy, like the weight of the past was pressing me down, and I wasn't sure I wanted to fight it. The next morning, I woke to an empty space beside me. But on his pillow lay an envelope with my name on it. The envelope was thick, sealed neatly, and had my name written in David's familiar handwriting, the kind that slanted slightly when he was tired. My hands hesitated before opening it. A part of me was afraid. Afraid of finding something that would either break me completely or pull me right back into his orbit. Inside was a letter. No, not just a letter, a confession. Anna. If you're reading this, I probably didn't have the courage to say it out loud. I was wrong about so many things. The affair, the lies, the way I shut you out. I told myself I did it because I was scared, but the truth is, I was selfish. I thought if you hated me, it would be easier for you to let go when the time came. But that was the cruelest thing I could have done to you. The doctors don't know if I have months or a year, but I know I don't want to spend whatever's left without making things right. If you can't forgive me, I understand. But I had to try. Always. David. Tears blurred the ink before I even realized I was crying. My chest ached with an emotion I couldn't name, part grief, part anger, part something dangerously close to love. But there was more inside the envelope. A folded document, with his lawyer's letterhead. It was his will. And my name was all over it. At first glance, I thought I was misreading it. David had left almost everything to me, the house, his savings, even a small cabin upstate I'd forgotten we ever owned. But then my eyes caught on a section near the end, written in cold legal language. All assets to be transferred to Anna Parker on the condition that she remains married to David Parker at the time of his passing. I stared at the words, my pulse pounding. The divorce hearing was scheduled for tomorrow. If I went through with it, I'd be walking away from everything, not just the money, but the home we built, the memories tied to every wall. The cynical part of me wondered if this was all some manipulative trick. He'd cheated, lied, and now he was dangling an inheritance like bait. But another part, the part that had felt his hand tremble in mine last night, thought of his diagnosis, the fear in his voice. It wasn't about the money. It was about whether I could stand to watch him fade away, knowing I had chosen to leave. I folded the will back into the envelope, my hands shaking. And then I heard the front door open. David stepped inside, holding a small paper bag. I got us breakfast, he said softly, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. I sat at the kitchen table while David unpacked the breakfast bag, 2 bagels, cream cheese, and a small container of strawberries. My favorite. Thought you might like something sweet, he said with a tentative smile. I wanted to ask him why he'd done it, the condition in the will, the letter, everything. But instead, I found myself staring at the way his hands moved, slower than I remembered, a faint tremor in his fingers. He must have noticed my silence because he stopped mid-motion. Did you read it? He asked quietly. I nodded. His shoulders dropped. It's not a trick, Anna. I didn't want to leave this world knowing I'd ruined you in every way. Maybe it's selfish, but I wanted to make sure you were taken care of. My throat tightened. And the condition? He hesitated, his gaze dropping to the table. Because I wanted one last piece of us. I didn't want my last days to be as your ex-husband. I wanted to be your husband when I said goodbye. The honesty in his voice cut deeper than any lie he'd ever told. I looked at him for a long time, the weight of years pressing down on me. This man had hurt me in ways I'd never thought I could heal from, but he had also been the love of my life once. The divorce hearing was tomorrow. One phone call could cancel it. I reached for my coffee, my fingers brushing his. I'll think about it, I whispered. And for the first time in months, David smiled without sadness. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, memories flooded in, the good and the bad, tangled like vines. I remembered the night he proposed, under a canopy of fairy lights he'd strung across our backyard. I remembered our first apartment, the way we painted the walls ourselves and laughed at the crooked edges. But then came the darker images, late nights when he didn't come home, the sickening pit in my stomach when I found the messages from her, the arguments that left us sleeping back-to-back in silence. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from my sister, Emily. Are you ready for tomorrow? Once it's over, you can finally move on. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Instead of replying, I called her. She picked up on the second ring. Anna? Everything okay? I don't know, I admitted. He's sick, Em. Really sick. And the will, it's complicated. Complicated how? I explained the condition, the letter, and the tremor in his hands this morning. Emily was quiet for a long moment before speaking. You loved him once. That doesn't just vanish. But love isn't the same as trust. The question is, can you be there for him without losing yourself again? Her words stayed with me long after we hung up. At 2 a.m., I found myself standing in the kitchen, staring at the divorce papers lying on the counter. The pen was right there, ready for my signature in the morning. Instead, I slid them into a drawer and closed it. Morning sunlight spilled into the kitchen as I brewed coffee, my mind oddly calm after a night of restless thoughts. At 9 a.m., I picked up the phone and called my lawyer. I'm not going through with it, I said simply. She paused. Anna, are you sure? Yes, I answered, surprising even myself. I need more time. With him. David was sitting on the porch when I walked outside. He looked up, startled, as I handed him a mug of coffee. No courthouse today, I said. His brows furrowed. What do you mean? I mean, I'm not ready to end this. Not yet. For a moment, he just stared, as if he didn't trust his own hearing. Then his face softened, relief and gratitude mingling with something else, hope. We spent that day together like we hadn't in years. Driving to the lake. Eating lunch from a roadside diner. Talking about nothing and everything. It was almost easy to forget why we were here, why time felt so fragile. That night, we lay in bed, his arm around me, his heartbeat steady under my ear. Thank you, he whispered. I didn't answer. I just held on. Weeks later, he was admitted to the hospital for surgery. The transplant was risky, and he knew it. Before they wheeled him away, he squeezed my hand. If I don't make it, know that last month with you was the best gift I could have asked for." He survived. Barely. Recovery was long, and our future uncertain, but for the first time in years, we were rebuilding, not as strangers, not as enemies, but as two people who had chosen, against all odds, to try one last time. And sometimes, that's enough.